Hello and welcome, dear listener, to Contemplations with Cosmodore. Today's topic is the tale of mankind. Mankind's history is one defined by many a great battle. Whether it's a mere marital dispute or the quarrel between people who prefer toilet paper facing front side up and those who like to make things needlessly complicated. But there is one rivalry that has encumbered mankind throughout the ages and reigns supreme above all others, which is that of cats and kids, I guess. But I'm not talking about your normal, everyday felines. No, I'm talking about cats with a K, because these were the late 2000s, and we still weren't sure whether we wanted our series to continue being goofy and experimental like the early 2000s, radical like the 90s, or edgy and hip. But fortunately, we later got series that proved that you can fail miserably at all of that.
Anyway, Kid vs. Cat is a 2008 I guess I wrote that. Canadian animated TV series that no one seems to remember. Seriously, there is not a single review about it on YouTube, which is strange because this thing was everywhere. It got passed around from Nickelodeon to Disney, back to YTV, back to Nickelodeon. This thing was on all the channels until like 2016 and still no one seems to care about it. Whenever something like this happens to a series, I'm always a bit skeptical because it's never because it's notoriously bad and obviously not because it's exceptionally good either, and this cursed mediocrity made many experimental late 2000 cartoons sort of disappear into the void. Honestly though, I remember this series being sort of alright, and I'm unsure whether it really isn't worth talking about at all. I guess I just have to be the one to break the spell and look at the forbidden fruit that is... The series plot goes as follows. Our main character Coop, voiced by Aaron Matthews, discovers a strange-looking cat, and his younger sister Millie decides to adopt it. Coop doesn't want the cat in the family though, since he suspects that it's actually an alien, which is true, and therefore the cat tries to get him out of the picture, whilst maintaining its facade. There are a bunch of other characters, like Coop's dad for example, which, get this, is named Bert Burtenberger. To the show's credit, this family has the most perfectly ridiculous name I've ever heard. They would get along great with the Phantom family.
He's a phantom.
Hold still, kitty. There! Don't you look precious? I've decided that I'm going to call him Mr. Cat.
It's only getting better, I guess. The show at one point replaced the Fairly Odd Parents in their time slot on the channel I watched it on, and for some reason I always thought that the shows were somehow related, which they are not at all. The only similarity may be that Coop and Timmy are both little know-it-alls who also had the same voice actor in the German version, so maybe that's where I drew the connection, I don't know.
There! It worked! Finally, we're gonna get rid of that bald squirrel! Did you find my kitty? We sure did!
You know, normally I'm not one to nitpick stuff like this, but why in God's name would all of these kids stop by Coop's house to check for their pets when the photo very clearly depicts a rather distinctive looking purple cat? Are there this many lilac alien cats that ran away in this town? Let's talk about something a bit more fun, the animation. And I'm glad to say that this series has by far the most mediocre animation I have ever seen. It was mainly made by Studio B Productions, most famous for creating such series as Clash of the Titans, Yakety Yak, and packages from Planet X, but also infamous for stuff like What About Mimi? And the 2007 George of the Jungle cartoon. Who asked for a second George of the Jungle cartoon? Was it you? Did you ask for this? The animation looks just fine. It's nothing special, really. Doesn't look cheap either. It's just bland. Everything looks so bland, especially the backgrounds. It was Studio B Productions' last main series before being bought up. I wonder why.
What have we got here? Quickly, boy.
This is Miss Munson, and I don't like her. Oh my god, how I don't like her. She is always the one to basically ruin Coop's plans and the cause of him being Mr. Cat's target, and only really cares about her dog, her garden gnomes, and Millie as far as the Burtenberger family goes. Basically, she's just a living crotchety old woman trope. Nothing to write home about. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we come across the main problem of the entire series.
First, you blow a crater in the backyard. Then you sneak into Old Lady Munson's yard, and now this? I never thought I'd say this, Coop, but go to your room.
The dad never believes his son. Not once. Coop is the bad guy in every single episode, whatever Mr. Cat does. Mr. Cat mind controls the whole town and basically destroys all of it as a result. How could you, Coop? Dad gets turned into a rat. Go to your room, Coop. Net neutrality got repealed. I think we all know who's to blame for that. In my opinion, this is the main problem the show is facing, and it gets so frustrating so quickly. There is never the feeling of Coop accomplishing anything through his actions, as Mr. Cat is always one step ahead of him, and if he isn't, still has the upper hand because he needs to get special treatment because, I don't know. I do not understand why the dad is this mean to his son at all. But anyway, Miss Munson does her trademark scream, which I really need a dubstep remix of. The voice actors in the series do a thoroughly convincing job portraying their character, especially Linda Sorensen as Miss Munson and Trevor Devil as Coop's dad. That is one aspect of the show I definitely enjoyed. And still...
This scene hurts so much.
A toy thief and a gnome napper! I'll deal with you later.
This scene hurts so much.
On to the next episode. This one's actually a lot better. It has Coop wanting to watch a scary movie and Mr. Cat ruins it for him, obviously. But surprisingly enough, the payoff in the end isn't that bad, and there are some legitimately funny jokes in this one.
I'm not kidding, Dennis. Ever since that cat moved in, my whole life has been turned upside down.
A nice little piece of trivia is that the original title of the show was Look What My Sister Dragged In, which I think would have been a lot less generic than Kid vs. Cat. I guess they didn't go with that one because it was easier to market Kid vs. Cat internationally, which it is called basically everywhere around the globe. Except for Germany, where it is called Coop gegen Cat. Yeah, glad you still left the cat, guys. Gotta keep that edge. The next episode has Mr. Cat blaming water balloons in Miss Munson's yard on Coop and...
Oh my god, he was right there with you. How would he have done that? Use your brain.
To the show's credit, Coop's friend Dennis is actually a nice enough sidekick. He's more on the scaredy cat side, and I can definitely sympathize with that. The fourth episode has the most interesting idea because Mr. Cat has to wear a cat-controlling collar that he rewires to work on humans. It doesn't really do a whole lot with that idea though, other than the occasional, well, torture porn. But still, there are some good one-liners and Mr. Cat does get his punishment in the end. The second and this episode are definitely better than the other two. I mean, it's nothing exceptionally great, but at least it doesn't make me cringe or want to turn off the TV, which I did a lot when I first watched this show, so it really is a hit and miss sort of series. We could go on and watch some other episodes. There is a point later on in the series where there are like other aliens or something, but essentially this is all there is to it. Coop torture porn and mediocre stories at best for 2 full seasons straight, until it got cancelled via Facebook. What a time we are living in. I wouldn't say that I'd recommend it, except if you're in the mood for some 2000s cartoons that people just seem to have forgotten about. But honestly, there are some much better options. It was almost exactly how I remembered it being, like, not very engaging and most of the time just plain frustrating, if not a bit more frustrating than how I recalled. But I know that still a lot of time goes into a show like this, and I want to give it the benefit of the doubt and see what some other people who have watched it have thought about it. Maybe they'll be able to change my mind. David Hollander says, "Great show. You there, ignore the negative reviews below." Yeah, this is the first one, so I think I will. Kid vs. Cat is a great show, and I love it so much. You can't find cartoons like this these days, because the others are completely garbage and unoriginal. This show is one of the best series I've ever seen in my life. I don't ever want it to end. Best cartoon series ever. Kid vs. Cat is a great show, and I love it so much. You can't find cartoons like this these days. What? The best cartoon series ever made. I love this show. Are these just paid to write this? Are these the creators themselves? The best cartoon series ever made. I love this show. The first 5 minutes of it, I was already in love with it. The show is inspiring. Well, that's debatable. This show can die now. What the hell, man? It's a bit dark, don't you think? This show is telling me also that we're supposed to see Coop as the antagonist and Millie and Mr. Cat as the protagonists. Yeah, that's almost exactly what I was thinking, because Coop never feels as though he is actually the protagonist. He's just sort of a B character, or one that only acts. To see Mr. Cat in action doesn't feel like we were supposed to relate to Coop in any sort of way. Okay, Kid vs. Cat was a cartoon who disappointed me. Yeah, this show is annoying and lame. The show consists in the family Burtonburger. Coop is the principal character versus to alien cat in the space, who wants to conquer the world, but he preferred to live with the family because he liked to torture the kid, or vice versa. The animation was pretty okay, the art was mediocre. Coop is a character who sacrifices life with his friend Dennis Lawrence to defend the world of Mr. Cat. His character is very annoying, but Millie is worse. The father bird is okay, but very blind on this situation. Lamest cartoon ever. Yeah, this wasn't actually very helpful. It only served to sort of justify my criticism. I don't even know what I would rate this show myself, to be honest. It's not exactly in the bottom half of the scale, but also doesn't warrant anything beyond it. Let me just say this. The show's creator, Rob Boudelier, I think he was called, was credited as the director for exactly 2 series. This one and 2015's Super Noobs. So if I were to actually give this show a rating, I guess it would be the best Rob Boudelier show to date out of 10.
And try to keep that boy under control!
Darned if I